Good Saturday morning, wherever you are. Um, I gave good thought to psychological safety. Safety does matter, and I wondered, what experiences have I had considering developing this program? It's the first time I've presented it, so this is a debut, and I'm looking forward to your feedback. When I thought about psychological safety, I ended up thinking about the times I was in dysfunctional situations, environments where there was no or very little psychological safety. And I thought of other environments where it was. So I had a teacher in high school that I felt safe, psychologically safe, that is, emotionally safe, with a man for the first time. I had an abusive dad growing up. And Dr. Wayland Drew was my English teacher, and he used to weep as he read poetry. And so I had that contrast. And then later, when I went to advanced education, I had some professors take an interest in me, which was very comforting. And then I remember a job interview where four men started asking me all kinds of questions about my husband and how much he earned and what position he had. I mean, I'm talking about the late 1960s here. I felt terribly threatened, and I realized in later years those gentlemen did not know what they were doing at all. They were interviewing me for a position in a child care center, and they knew nothing about children or child development or early childhood education. They only knew questions to ask about the male world at that time. Uh, I, I ended up crying. I certainly didn't feel safe. Uh, then I remember training with psychologist Margaret Wolf, and I was new and I was nervous, and she made it very easy for me to learn. She complimented me, she thanked me, she gave me very clear instructions. She invited questions from me, and it was so beautiful. Then later in life, I worked for a very fancy psychological clinic that was owned by a woman who I later discovered had some mental health issues. And I ended up resigning because there were a lot of unethical behaviors going on in this clinic. On the exit interview, she called me a person who's doing the work of the devil. You have to be doing the work of the devil to be leaving me and leaving me hanging like this. Then later, she said that I was an abuser of her by resigning. So that just gives you a few little flavors of some psychologically unsafe environments I was in. But in my history, this is hard to share, but it's already public in my book, Love Her As She Is, Lessons from a Daughter Stolen by Addictions. I have created psychological unsafety for my own children, particularly the child, the daughter, the beloved, who had disabilities and nobody understood. Nobody. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder was not understood back in the 1970s. And I used to scream and holler and call her names and what the heck are you going to do? And if you want to kill yourself because you're jumping in front of cars, let me do it. Um, just, yeah, I'm embarrassed. I created psychological unsafety. And then I remember as being a young beginning therapist, after I had a lot of therapy myself, I remember taking a woman's journal and marking in it. And she never came back and she told me how disrespectful it was. Oh my goodness, I invaded. Oh, I still blush when I think about that. So we're going to explore psychological safety, and I hope that's enough of personal sharing to begin. Okay. Let's just take a look here. So psychological safety does matter, and we're going to explore the red flags and what you can do, whether that's avoiding being in psychological unsafe places, or whether it's you can increase the psychological safety. Yeah, so let's go. But first, I want to know in the chat box, please let me know whether you're a manager, a leader, an employee, a teacher, instructor, a spouse, a parent, or maybe two or three of these so that I get a sense of where maybe I should focus. It's a quick hour, so please type in the chat box what brought you here today.
Spouse and parent, um, manager, leader, employee, spouse, parent, parent, spouse, employee, employee, employee.
Oh,
You know, these are the,
hmm,
I'm a spouse, instructor, employee, parent. You know, I'm a
right.
parent and currently have kinship of my nephew, spouse, so it's um,
Okay. Well,
parent, spouse, instructor.
wow, it's sort of like broad and general. Okay, we'll just try to keep it broad and general. Although I want to put a caveat on this. Well, let me just go back here. Just want to put a little caveat on this discussion that we as adults do have choices. We have choices and we have responsibility. Uh, Many children right now, right today, are living in very dangerous, emotionally dangerous, sometimes physically dangerous environments. You cannot have psychological safety, by the way. It's a no-brainer that there's no psychological safety if it's not physically safe. And so regrettably, many children are in that position. So if we're here as a parent, we can create psychologically safe places. Um, when we're in the workplace, we have less power. When we're the adults in the home, we have the power and control that the children don't have. So, what's the problem? Well, there's lots of research, and there's a report called the Wiley Workplace Intelligence Report, and it goes quite thoroughly into some of the percentages and the reports from leaders as well as managers. You know, leaders do report to a CEO or sometimes a board of directors, and sometimes those board of directors are having a dysfunctional time. So 40% of leaders agree that if they made a mistake, it would be held against them. That's pretty scary to be making decisions and have fear included. 7 in 10 youth experience bullying. Statistics Canada, that's in Canada. Canada, where we're supposed to be polite and kind. These statistics can be kind of scary. Okay, here in the home. So school may not be safe for kids. Actually, I've had in the last year and a half, two families bring their child to see me because they were being bullied. And really, uh, parents and I couldn't do anything. They approached with a strategy to the school. Okay, this is your opportunity to take a guess. Is it number one, number two, or number three? What's your best guess of the number of police reported victims of violence by family members, by either a parent or a grandparent, um, an older sibling, maybe an uncle that comes into the home, or a babysitter well, it's actually by family. So, what's your guess?
Two, three, three, two, two, three, three, two.
Two. Okay, so pretty smart group, drum roll. It is this percentage, 2021. Now, isn't this interesting? If we guess that there are maybe average out 4 people in family, there actually are some families with 4 kids, 3 kids, 1 kid, no kids. But if we average out these homes, like that's 500,000 people that are experiencing that. If the violence is in the home, it's like living in a war zone. Domestic violence for children is like sending them to war. I used to do violence prevention for the YWCA, a little programs to have people be aware. So, what is the definition of psychological safety? It's really important to know that. And so, researcher Amy Edmondson said or wrote, psychological safety is a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or sharing mistakes. Let that sink in. And what's the importance of psychological safety? There are many benefits. So at work, people have more creativity and problem solving, more open communication. They don't hesitate to bring up problems so that problems get solved sooner. There's less stress and burnout. People are more welcome at work. They're keen to go to work. And they might even say, I love my work. I just heard somebody say that very recently. Job satisfaction. They say, I feel so satisfied giving my talents and my gifts. Improved performance and productivity. These have all been researched by Edmondson and others. At home, caring relationships. You hear honey and dear and can I help? Reduced again stress and anxiety. Stress, anxiety, and depression keep increasing and increasing. And we have to ask ourselves, what is happening at work and at home that these phenomena are increasing? Personal growth happens. I can learn. I can ask questions. I can be with my dad and learn how to hammer. I can be with my mom and learn how to hammer. I had to watch my sexism there. We know how to do relationship repair. All relationships are going to have some tension, a little bit of a tension, or somebody probably is not speaking up on their own behalf and saying, I don't want to do that. Or can I talk about an alternative? And as a whole, family, mental, and physical well-being is in good shape. I got a little sniffle. So here's a little summary of psychological safety, and I made this week. I just wanted to play a little. I hope you enjoy this little production of mine. Psychological safety matters to us all. But first, what does it mean? The researcher, Dr. Emmy Anderson of Harvard University, says psychological safety is a belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or sharing mistakes. If you feel psychologically safe, you don't need to defend or hide your thoughts or your feelings, even if they are different than others. And you don't fear making a mistake or an error at home, school, or work. You are included, connected to others, and your contributions are appreciated. Psychological safety supports mutual respect and understanding. It helps us feel more confident and to trust more and be more inclusive. With improved internal calm, our creativity, learning ability, and productivity increase. And we enjoy what we do with others. Let's all do our best to create psychological safety at home, school, and work. I'd just like to have a little comment in the chat box. Did you enjoy my little production? It took me 2 nights of playing before my husband went to bed. So what do you think? Just give me a little, I don't know. You can even use the stars or the thumbs up or whatever in your Zoom toolbox.
It was cute. There are 8 stars already, and smiley faces, and hearts.
Oh,
Uh,
good. Okay.
it's good. It's a good summary.
Oh,
Very well.
yeah, they
Thank
say,
you. Maybe
yeah.
you should do a session teaching us how you did it. Thank you.
Oh, we'll, oh, excuse me. We'll talk about that. Okay, thank you. That's kind of a little bit of playfulness, and if I can play and do something that's going to be helpful to other people at the same time. By the way, that's available now on my YouTube channel. You just Google Patricia Morgan YouTube. Probably the word resilience will help bring up my YouTube channel if you want to take a look. I've got over 300, I think over 320 videos. Some are animations. Okay, let's roll here. Red flags of psychological danger. So I found this quotation by Gareth Davies. The tricky thing about psychological safety is how to transform an unsafe team struggling with imposter syndrome, blame culture, and fear of judgment into one that is psychologically safe, open, and knows that failure is a learning opportunity. Now, these are all red flags. And the point of knowing red flags is that you know what to pay attention to, and if you have the power and control to change it. So, um, yeah, uh, this is important to know the red flags, and it's the first step to dealing with psychological safety is being able to identify it and say it. Okay. So at work, a red flag is fear of speaking up or disagreeing. Is that welcomed? Is somebody say thank you for your opinion or thank you for your perspective? Let's have a discussion about it. Quick blaming, like looking for who's at fault when there's a problem, rather than saying it looks like we have a problem, or a bully culture where somebody is targeted and demeaned. And there's an amazing book that was written after a school shooting in the US by Barbara Coloroso called The Bully, the Bullied, and the Bystander. And in that book, she said, the bystanders, have to stop being silent and speak up and say that's not okay. And we as Canadians need to support Pink Shirt Day. Pink Shirt Day happened in Nova Scotia. A child was bullied when that child turned up at high school wearing a pink shirt, was sister's shirt. I don't think he had many choices. And what happened was that three caring teenagers went out. These are guys. They went out and bought pink t-shirts. They bought 50 actually, gave them to all their classmates, and all the classmates turned up wearing pink shirts, and the bullies were minimized because the majority took over. Weak leaders. And that, what does weak leaders mean? I don't like labeling people. I just don't feel comfortable with it. I feel better describing behaviors. But when you're doing a slide deck, you want to kind of summarize. Oh, weak leaders mean leaders that maybe don't have skills such as listening, negotiating, being firm, making the expectations clear, and follow through. Taking a stand, having boundaries, all of those good communication skills. Micromanagement, like how you write, what you write, rather than focusing on the outcome and it's trusting your skills. There's no trust. So many managers might as well just do the job themselves rather than assign, delegate, and trust. And there is a place for guidance and mentoring, feedback. Exclusion or discrimination. And of course, we run into all of the ageism, sexism, racism, all the discriminations here where people are left out. At home, blaming, criticizing, threatening, shaming, name calling, belittling. Oh my goodness, I did some and all of those. I'm embarrassed. Fortunately, I grew and apologized. You can make amends. Emotional absence and unresponsive to others' feelings. Sometimes this is not a parent's fault, but it can feel psychologically unsafe if a parent is chronically, for example, depressed or in the hospital. Aggressive verbal fighting, violation of boundaries, controlling, manipulation, and gaslighting. My daughter just a week ago said, Mom, what's gaslighting? And gaslighting is trying to convince you that your reality is not the truth. So just recently heard somebody say they were the boy. I'm wondering if my boyfriend's gaslighting me. Well, what's going on? Well, we were driving for hours, and I said, "Oh, I need something to eat and drink." And he said, "Well, I've been driving for 3 hours. You can't be hungry. You don't need anything to drink. That's ridiculous." Well, if somebody's telling you what, when you're saying a basic need is like if you say you have to go to the toilet, and somebody says, "Well, that's silly." That's gaslighting. It's saying that your reality is is inaccurate, and it can be very mental illness creating. If you don't have somebody that can ground you and explore what's going on. And just yesterday, I had somebody come to see me who wondered whether she was being mean because she's supposed to be working with a coworker, but the coworker never turns up, but management isn't doing anything. And so she's doing two people's jobs and being paid for her job. So so management is doing some gaslighting there by just saying, "Oh, you just have to be more patient, have to be more patient." Well, her reality is she may burn out, and then they wouldn't have even one functioning employee. So how can you tell? Those are red flags that you notice externally, but what are your personal red flags? And I certainly had mine in my era. I want you to take a look here at these red flags. Now, I want to put a caveat on these red flags. These are also indicators of trauma. And psychologically unsafe environments can create trauma. My father created complex or childhood trauma in me by his abusive behavior. So when you're in your own environment now as an adult and you start to feel psychologically unsafe, there is a whole process of trying to decide whether it's about now in the home with a spouse or in the workplace with management, or if you're in school, whether it's the teacher, and you probably need somebody outside of the situation help you decide whether you're being triggered from unresolved trauma from the past, or whether you are experiencing life is going really, really well, and then you have this experience of a psychologically unsafe environment, and these start bubbling up in you. So I'm just going to ask you to write in the chat box just one that you have either witnessed somebody struggling with that you believe had to do with psychological safety, or one that you've experienced yourself. So we get a feel of, yeah, this is real. Um, I, when I am in those places that wear me out, I experience a lot of fatigue and I sleep for hours. And I fantasize that when I wake up, the nightmare will be over.
So,
Right?
chronic
Oh,
muscle pain, everything,
good
low
for you.
self-esteem
Um,
in a coworker,
both,
both.
which couple of these are you referring to? Yeah.
Um, th-
So
there are many like
what have we got, Manisha, for what people
chronic
have experienced
chronic tension.
that they have connected with psychologically unsafe spaces?
So, Patricia, the answers written in chat are chronic tension, muscle pain, digestive issues, low energy, low self-esteem in a coworker, both, everything. Chronic muscle
Okay, I'm going to
pain.
go on. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Patricia.
Are you there, Manisha? Hello?
Yes, 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 Patricia, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you're there. Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
I was reading out
Okay,
the answers.
okay,
Chronic muscle pain, everything, low self-esteem, both um, stress, digestive issues, you know, very difficult to focus, concentrate,
right.
um, um, persistent fear,
Mm,
a sense of helplessness,
right. Oh, yes.
no hope, um, uh, digestion issues,
Oh, yes.
oversleeping, just sleeping too much and
Yes,
not feeling fresh when you wake up.
right. I accidentally turned my, I don't know how I did it, but I accidentally turned my speaker off. So anyway, thank you for repeating that. Appreciate it. Okay, yeah, so all of those are very, very common. And if we don't look after them, then we're moving. You can have burnout at home. You can burn out around what's going on at home, uh, as well as work and at school. I had a situation one time in my studies where, yeah, I started having all kinds of rashes, irritated bowel syndrome attacks, and it was just that when you're in psychologically unsafe spaces, there's more stress going on. And it's not just mental, it's body, mind, it gets affected. Thank you for sharing that. So how do we create psychological safety? Sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you don't have the power and control, and that's important for you to know. Sometimes we need to sit down and make a little circle on a piece of paper and write what we do control and make another circle on the outside and write down what we don't have control over. Usually, if there's management that is very dysfunctional, usually there is somewhere that you can go if you've done your very best to try to change what's going on. I ended up writing a little something about managing management one time to see if you can shape more civil, healthier behavior. It's almost like trying to be a parent and reward behavior. Sometimes uh, when we name somebody a bully, and I don't like name calling people a bully, I'd rather say, that person is really wounded, has unresolved issues. Oftentimes, there are situations where someone you may feel, there are situations where you may feel as if you're picked on or bullied, and actually it's somebody who is struggling with their anger management issues. When I did my research for the book From Woe to Wow, How Resilient Women Succeed at Work, I interviewed a woman who had a manager that everybody was calling a bully, and she just listened to him and found out that he had an anger management issue, and she helped her manager get into some therapy. So sometimes we just want to slow down and take a look at all of the factors that are going on. We can be truthful with ourselves. I'm sleeping far too much. I'm feeling fatigued. I'm feeling some unsettledness in me. I'm feeling unsafe. I'm feeling some fear about coming in. I often feel afraid to move ahead for fear of making a mistake. Can we talk about how maybe I could get over this? Now, that might work and it might not. We're going to talk about more solutions as we move forward. I don't want you to get too discouraged if you don't have the power and control to create psychological safety, but do know where. I want everybody in this very chaotic world. And you, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you know that North America is getting more chaotic with a lot of fear. So what do you do about that? Because it can become, that alone can become overwhelming. But you want to find, I hope you want to find psychologically, emotionally safe places and people. Start paying attention to who you can share your thoughts, share your feelings, and they get curious. Okay? So, what can you do? And you can create psychological safety for others, even if it's small moments. I feel very blessed that that's what I do almost every day is to create a psychologically safe space for my clients to come and sort out their world. So Timothy Clark wrote a book that seems to be quite significant because he developed a system of creating psychological safe workplaces. So this is mostly workplaces, but it can all be transferred to schools if you've got power and control. For example, if you have power and control, if you're the teacher in the classroom or the principal, not so much for your support staff, but the support staff has power and control about how they connect with children. So Timothy R. Clark says psychological safety is a condition in which you feel included, safe to learn, safe to contribute, and safe to challenge the status quo, all without fear of being embarrassed, marginalized, or punished in some way. So he developed 4 stages of psychological safety, and you saw a little hint of that right there. And this is his book, The Stages of Psychological Safety. Same thing, repeat, repeat. Now I'm just going to take a quick look here at his suggested 4 stages. So this would be very helpful. For example, if you were a teacher and you're starting in September for the classroom to come in, or a manager, sort of these are stages of beginning relationships. Or I often mentor people. I mentor people around professional speaking. And these would be good stages also for therapists. You have to build trust first. Although we're not working together, I'm more like a chauffeur of doing a therapeutic journey. So there are a few differences. But just ask yourself if some of these stages could be used in a space that you go to. So inclusion, he calls it inclusion safety. So it's a welcome environment and different perspectives are appreciated and welcomed. And I'm going to use the word curious over and over again, getting curious about other people rather than making judgments, rather than making assumptions, rather than letting biases take over, rather than letting your experience of people that come from different cultures or have different accents, rather than making those assumptions or letting those biases take over, using curiosity. Curiosity helps people feel included. Oh, somebody's interested. I have never met anyone who doesn't appreciate being seen, heard, and acknowledged. So we all desire that. Then stage 2 is, once the welcome is made, is the learner safety. And this is where questions are welcome. Experiment, try this out, see if that works for you. It works best for me if I put my left hand here and I chop with that hand. Or if with a knife, I do like this angle. Which one kind of works for you? Let's just play with it. Take a little risk here, right? So you're supporting learning and there might be a mistake. What did we learn from the mistake? I remember helping one of my grandkids learn how to crack an egg. And not all the time did we manage to keep the little shells out of the bowl. So anyway, crack, crack, and open it up. Oh, and then, as the learning happens, then we move to the next little risk. And can we get the yolk out of the white? Right? So that's advanced learning of cracking and cooking with an egg. So micro learning happening all the time if we have a brain that's active and wanting to move forward. And if we're feeling psychologically safe, we want to take risks. We want to like expand our experience a little bit. We don't want to just always be in the comfort zone, kind of boring, unstimulating. Stage three is contributor safety. Ah, you have skills and strengths that I've seen. Holy smokes. Oh my goodness. I see how creative you are. Wow. Could you just go into Canva and make us a poster for our next event? Yeah. Oh, I see sometimes your strength ends up being a weakness. What is a weakness? A weakness is strength overdone. So sometimes your space gets like a little chaotic, eh? And I see that you're having trouble finding a piece of paper. Creative geniuses often have to create creative chaos to end up with something kind of new and fresh. So there's the weakness in there. And I'm holding you accountable. You said you you said you'd contribute to the potluck. And here we are. And everybody brought their favorite or their cultural dish. And I'm just curious, is there a problem going on? Yeah. Or I'm curious, the report was due yesterday and I need it. My manager's expecting it, you know. Yeah. Um, oh, you got the report. Oh, it's done. Oh, it's in my email. Wow, you make a difference to me. Whew, I just feel myself totally calming down. Oh, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have that report to send on to my manager. Thank you. And then you move to the point of relationships, wherever this is. Let's just move to like in the home. A teenager now starts questioning the rules. Why do I have to go to bed at 10? Well, we decided that a couple years ago. Well, I'm really responsible now. Oh, yes, you are. You've shown all kinds of responsibility. And so what time do you want to go to bed? Just so that I know when to lock the house. Well, I'd like to start with 11 o'clock. Well, I think that's very reasonable, right? So, so, you know, you didn't have to ask why. Why is my bedtime at 10 o'clock? Yeah, you can challenge the status quo. You can say, why? Be careful about why, though. If you why you, that can be very accusatory. Um, but you can ask in your head why. I prefer when I ask questions, what's going on, or how would you like to do this? How did you decide to do this? Okay, some skills to practice, and then I've got some questions that were sent to me ahead of time that I'll quickly answer, and then we'll open it up if you've got any other questions. So here are some skills for you, and I'm just gonna ask you to do something in the chat box when I finish doing this. So skills to practice. Here we go. These skills are if you are in you have assessed that you are in a psychologically unsafe environment, maybe at home with a spouse, it may be if you're a student at school or in the workplace. And I'm talking about older students. If you're a parent and concerned, you do this on behalf of your child if you think your child is not safe at school. The first one is preparing informed boundaries. And boundaries are what's okay and what's not okay. So violations of values, violations of human rights. There's um, there's an article on my website called Basic Human Needs. If human needs aren't being met, um, such as telling a child that their feelings aren't okay, that they shouldn't have those feelings. Feelings tell us everything about who we are, and they don't hurt anybody. They simply get expressed. Like this: I feel disrespected. I feel ignored. I feel sad. I feel hurt. I feel afraid. See, often they come out with a lot more energy and blast it at other people as if those other people created the feeling. And maybe they did trigger it. However, know what the boundary is before you start thinking that you're psychologically unsafe. What is the boundary that's being crossed? create Creating a support network is really important. I recommend that everybody have at least one, preferably three confidants that you can say anything to. If you don't have that, you are psychologically at risk, emotionally at risk. And then we want to have about five or more people that feel like family, where you have a sense of belonging. Because if you're having to function in a psychologically unsafe environment for whatever reason, whether it's a salary or other reasons to be in an psychologically unsafe space. I can't tell you the number of older people, often in their 50s, early 60s, who are now in charge of looking after their older parent, and their older parent is so wounded that that older parent is still verbally abusive to them. And people like that can burn out being a caregiver. They need to have places where they can debrief and exhale, exhale, take a breath. And also a good support network can help provide resources. Keeping accurate records if you decide you're going to make a change, decide you're going to take a strong stance, excuse me, is very important. You write down exactly what you saw and heard. Not, it seemed like this person was ignoring me, said whatever, shrugged shoulders, and turned around and left. Excuse me. And the time and the date. Keep a record for a month, 2 months, a year, however long you need. Keep that record, and it may be very valuable at some point. Now, before you report to an ethical party, I wished I'd put in a point before this, and that is you approach the person or persons, if possible. For example, if your child is being bullied at school, you go to the teacher to see if it can be resolved. If the teacher doesn't do anything, then you go to the principal. If the principal doesn't do anything, then you go to the school board. If the school board doesn't do anything, then you need to find somebody who's ethical and will support you. And that's interviewing baby lawyers. Same steps in the workplace. So I'm a speaker, and I presented for a number of organizations. And one organization, it was obvious that they had a manager who was bullying staff, shaming. I witnessed the shaming right in front of me of a staff member. And the staff member took me aside while she was crying in the washroom. And I said, give me your email address. And she started recording, and she got other staff members to record. And they took their records of what this man was saying. He was somebody announced, I'll tell you what happened. This woman got up in front of a crowd of about 100 people in the company, and another staff member said, uh, let's go call her Jane. Jane just got engaged. Let's congratulate her. And the manager yelled out, are you going to make this one work or is it going to fail like the last one? That's the kind of comments he would make publicly about his own staff. Anyway, the reporting went to the upper management and board of directors, and that manager was soon gone. So sometimes you can take action to look after yourself and others. If nothing works, like if that woman that initiated that with my support, if that hadn't worked, then I would have supported her leaving that organization because there was nobody who was going to be a hero about creating psychological safety. So have an exit plan, start looking for another, if we're talking about work, start looking for other jobs before, while you're still in that job, if you can't afford to leave. If you can't afford to leave and take a break and debrief, get yourself pieced back together, great. Okay. If you've got power and control to increase psychological safety, here are modeling vulnerability. You don't have to cry like this in front of people, but you can say, oh, that hurts, right? You can model that it's safe to to share what you're thinking and feeling. Encourage thoughtful risk taking. Like, oh, is it going to be low risk or is it going to be high risk? What do we need to do if we go that? Having conversations about risk taking, and that's with children, youth, anybody when you're in position. Focused listening, really listen. All of these points we could do a whole session on. Creating mutual goals and success. Oh, what do we want happening here? Do we want to celebrate that it's our 10th anniversary of this organization? Or do we want to celebrate what a wonderful family we have and plan to do a little fancy meal? It doesn't really matter. Creating mutual goals and success and then celebrating them. And offering non-judgmental feedback. Feedback's really, really tricky and it's very different than criticism. It says, are you interested? I have some thoughts. And the person can say yes or no. No sense dumping feedback when it's not going to be received. And lots of expressing gratitude and appreciation. Lots of it. Thank you. Thank you for using your strengths. Thank you for cleaning up the space. Thank you for making my job easier. Thank you for supporting me. Lots and lots of gratitude and appreciation. Okay, so we're running out of time, and here are some questions that were sent to me. I gave them some thought, and here we go. How do we think and practice well-being in contemporary times with traditional Indigenous practices? Now, I only worked for an Indigenous community for 1 year, Kamamananak, Family Resource Center for Indigenous population. And obviously, I'm a white woman, so I do not feel qualified to answer this. I did take a stab, I thought about it, and we don't have time for a whole lot of discussion around it, although I will stay online afterwards. And maybe Manisha has worked, who's the host of these micro-learning sessions. She has worked for years with the Indigenous community, and she would know if there's somebody online that could better answer this question. Here's my stab, and Manisha, you can just let me know if it's half decent, and later you can correct me. But when we talk about traditional well-being, story is very important to the culture. Also, is ceremony, stewardship of the land, community and coming together with community, the elders' wisdom. I would take this question of yours to the elders. That's what I would do. And then how do you blend it with contemporary times? Get real clear about your values and what values are in the contemporary culture, the culture of today, with the majority being now. Well, right now it's not necessarily white. We are becoming more and more multicultural. So contemporary times, how does the computer fit in, right? How does the dishwasher fit in with in temporary times. And I think it's my experience. I have a number of Indigenous and Métis friends. Is it's a process of figuring out what to hang on to and what to let go and what to integrate. All right. Actually, Manisha, how was that as a quick summary?
Good. Excellent. Tapwe. Mevasan means awesome. Good.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay. All right.
I only want to add that please approach an elder with proper protocol. And you can ask the elder what's acceptable protocol, you know.
Ah,
We have
okay.
to honor our ketiak and do things in a right way.
The right way. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, um, yeah, if ever, uh, anyway, thank you for adding that. Okay, what are ways to navigate negativity in community? Well, here's a little stab again, and there's a lot of these questions. What's missing is the context. So I don't know all the details, but these are just general ways. If you walk into any kind of group or association or community, what can you do to change the atmosphere? Well, I'm just going to go back again and see that. Okay, negativity. Negativity um, usually calms down with a little bit of compassion. So, good listening skills. So what's going on? That must be hard. Da 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 da. And typically, you can see people's negativity just calm down a little bit. Often, negativity is wanting to get some attention. So, you're seeking to understand what this negativity is about. Express ample appreciation. And maybe reframe it as concern. You're really concerned. I hear that. And then if you can move it to problem solving, that's good. Catch moments of optimism. So I hear that maybe you're optimistic about, and then fill in the blank, right? So catching moments. Expand on good intentions. I really hear that your intention around what you're sharing with me uh, is caring and kind. But again, the context is missing here. Model respect and looking for solutions. By the way, when people are in a high feeling state, there's no solutions open to that mind, that brain. Nervous system has to calm down. People have to feel connected. Then we can problem solve. Build on strengths and collective resilience. So, this is what I'm willing to contribute to this problem, and we can do this together. How can we detect microaggressions in the workplace, and what are some of the steps we can take to create a safe space? Well, I thought I'd let you answer this because I have given all kinds of ideas, I thought, and resources during this presentation. And by the way, the session guide has many more ideas and resources. So um, you can either put in some of the ideas that I shared. Let's go back to the question. I'll just leave the question there. So you're answering this, all of you, please. So red flags, remember the red flags, and then my suggestions. What are we getting, Manisha?
Um, Stand up and call it out if you see it.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a really, really good line is when somebody's
Confront.
uh, confront. Okay. There is a time for confronting, yeah, especially with proper records. The line, that's not my experience, is a very good one. to say when somebody is beating up somebody else and creating psychological. If you stand, yeah, particularly stand up for yourself and for others. Identify red flags, issues, create boundaries, be positive. Um, the whole thing about be positive, sometimes it's okay. It's okay to say this isn't okay. I don't see anything positive about what's going on here. That's okay. Sometimes it's not positive. There's such a thing as called positivity toxicity that stifles people, actually can create psychological unsafe spaces if we're not allowed to feel down, if we're get messages come in different ways, if we're kind of shut off, if we start to grumble or identify problems, micromanagement, creating those personal boundaries. Yes. Okay. Very good. Everyone, be assertive. Yes, we have a session, I think, coming up this year on the difference between being assertive, aggressive, and just giving up and being passive. Very good. Thank you. I was able to read those just fine. Wonderful. Okay, let's go here.